If you think you're already paying too much state income tax, you won't like hearing that there is a chance that your taxes could go up. Of course, depending on how much money you make and whose budget plan prevails in the legislature, your taxes could also go down. Tia Cummings is embracing an old friend and the idea of her taxes going up.
Maybe that's a little strange, but I'm usually not against when my taxes go up a little bit because I feel like I can afford to give more.
The Vernon woman is in the income bracket where her income tax would go way up if the Democratic budget becomes law. And surprisingly enough, she's okay with it. However, Patricia Harmon isn't okay with it.
This is the most expensive state to live that certainly I've ever lived.
At a women's convention in downtown Hartford where Governor Jody Rell was a guest of honor, people were chiming in on the state's income tax one day after Democrats unveiled their budget. In it, the 5% income tax would go up for most joint filers making about $200,000 plus, remain the same for this income bracket, and go down for joint filers making $100,000 or less.
We have a great income tax. We give in tax relief to 88% of Connecticut residents.
Under Rell's budget, everybody's taxes would go up 0.25% this year and another 0.25% next year to help fund education and, the governor says, help alleviate the burden on local property taxes.
It's not just about rich people paying more right now. It is about putting your priorities in place.
While Amon swears he's not flexing his muscles, Democrats do hold a supermajority now, which means they could have enough votes to override a veto. At the state capitol, Shelley Sinland, Fox 61, News at 10. And joining us this morning to talk about the state budget, our Hartford Current Capitol reporter, Mr. Chris Keating, Speaker of the House, Jim Amon, and Representative Kevin Delgado, a Republican lawmaker from Naugatuck. Gentlemen, thanks for being here this Sunday morning. We appreciate it. First question.
Nice to be here, Shelley.
Thanks. Glad to hear that. First question, though, you may not like, no. It's to both of you. I guess with the fact that we do have a surplus this year, and I know things can change, but the question a lot of people want to know is why raise taxes at all?
You got it. That's a very, very good question. I've been asking that since the governor made her address. She came out in the box raising taxes across the board on everybody, as you know, and blowing through the spending cap by about $500 million. And I think we were all kind of scratching our heads at the time because we are in surplus and we certainly have a rainy day fund. I think what we're trying to say now that we're going towards the budget negotiations. Last year we worked extremely hard, the Democratic Party with this governor. We didn't raise taxes at all. So if we are into this battle now, what the Democratic majority believes is let's try to not raise taxes as many people as we can. We have a program that says last year no taxes, 90% of the people this year get a tax cut. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Real quickly, I just want to give you a few. So what you need to raise taxes to pay for what specifically? And then I want to give you Representative a chance to answer.
Well, don't forget, the governor came up with a $3.4 billion 5-year plan. That's an extremely aggressive program for education. Certainly I know that Representative Delgado and I, we all believe in education and investment in education. We wanted a little bit more fairer, more accountable, and more broad-based. Fair means who's going to pay for it. Accountability, we all want good accountability, but more balanced. We believe that the #1 issue in Connecticut where we're all facing is health care, along with education, transportation investment, property tax relief. Those are the things that we said, Governor, let's match our plans together. You want to invest all in education, we believe should be more broad-based, but we also still believe we can do it by giving 90% of the taxpayers a break.
But Representative Delgado, what do you have to say about it? I guess, is it the other 10% of the taxpayers, or are you disputing his figures altogether?
Well, you know, some of these numbers, they might make sense under the Capitol Dome, but when I think a lot of people out in the state of Connecticut sit there and go, wait a minute, you're going to increase spending by $1.5 billion, over a 10% increase in 1 year alone, and somehow you're going to be able to cut taxes for 90% of the people. Something doesn't add up here, any measure of common sense. Frankly, there's a number of us in this in the legislature that are hoping to pull the debate back a little bit. You're right, there is a surplus right now. We've got over $1 billion in the rainy day fund, and many of us believe that we need a budget framework that is sustainable over time. It is true, the Speaker is absolutely right. We do have a number of critical issues that are facing the state on education and health care and a number of other areas. But to make promises that are going to collapse in themselves, to write the check or promise to write the check to cities and towns that the state isn't going to be able to maintain is a very dangerous direction for us to go in.
Speaker Amon's making some funny faces, but I want Chris to jump in.
I wanted to ask the Speaker, what do you think the chances are of the governor signing a bill? The Democrats have been talking about a millionaire's tax, et cetera, for years. What do you think the chances are? At the high end is 6.95%. What do you think the chances are the governor would sign that?
This isn't a millionaire's tax. This is a progressive income tax. More importantly than that, Representative Galway was disputing Office of Fiscal Analysis. These are their figures. They're not Jimmy Amon's or the Democratic Party. This is the one that we rely on as a group, a nonpartisan group that we hire to do their job. I've talked to a few of them. They are insulted by saying that some Republicans believe that their numbers are somehow phony numbers and not real. We must rely on OFA to give us the real numbers. And you know what? What Kevin asked, I guess Kevin, the guy, to ask you, yeah. Do you or do you not believe that 90% of our taxpayers need a break? And in Naugatuck, Kevin, in Naugatuck, where I used to work, 95% of those taxpayers need a break, and I think we can deliver it. It's not phony, it's real, and we're going to do it.
Well, the OFA numbers, the OFA numbers show that you know, in the very near out years that we're at $1.3 billion deficit in this budget framework that the Speaker is proposing, and more than that in the out years. And when you begin to look at all, you know, how you're shifting these things around, frankly, it's true. There is an apparent tax break for a number of taxpayers. It's going to make the entire system unstable. You're going to rely on a few thousand people to pay it all. And Senator Nickerson, the Finance Committee, says one guy rolls out of bed the wrong way, and all of a sudden we have huge swaths of our revenue base that goes away.
Let's talk about this, though. This is something that the governor has thrown on the table, and it's property tax reform. This is something the Democrats have wanted for a long time. Let me say this. $1,944 per person, according to Harper Kern, is what the average person in Connecticut pays in property taxes. I wish that's what I paid. I'd be happy with that. Mine's about double. What are you going to do, Speaker Amon? Governor wants to cap it at 3%.
She can't even stay in her own cap. We've gone from $500 to $1,000, doubling the property tax. With those folks you just talked about, we'll go from $1,900 to $900 automatically. This is a great plan. Kevin Delgabe, in all due respect, good friend of mine, great guy. He would not vote for the Democratic budget. He will not vote for the Republican, the governor's budget. So it's easy for him to sit there and say, well, we don't like anything because we're not going to be responsible and vote no on everything. Well, we're saying
we have a minute left.
Someone needs to be responsible and needs to vote for a budget. Kevin won't vote for either one of them.
Truth is we've made it clear, it's rather than trying to obstruct the process, we have made it clear right during the budget discussions that we're willing to work very hard to move this along and to be a part of the process. However, I don't want to make promises to my citizens in Naugatuck. We saw it in the past where legislatures made promises like on Education Enhancement Act years ago, make all these promises, and then a couple years later the legislature says, no, we can't keep that promise.
30 seconds, Chris.
One quick question. Small or large improvements in health care this year? What are the chances for universal health care or single payer?
Let's
Kevin and I probably at this point agree it's going to be very tough to get a huge package for health care. I'm hoping we can at least take care of the kids.
Agreed.
All right, great. I'm sure you were hoping to get in a little bit more time since Speaker Amon's voice was a little harsh, raspy, but you did a good job. I'm just kidding. All right, thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see what happens. All right.